I'm Ewan, welcome back to Shoogly Shed Motors. I lied. I thought it would be like a fortnight or something before I could find anything to do, because I was going to be restoring some parts and things like that. But then it kind of, big light bulb moment is that I haven't actually sorted my seat pan out, and hopefully that will make good content for a video. I don't know, you can tell me if it does. The seat pan for the GS500, essentially, I want it to just be flush with the top of the frame here. Just a sheet of steel foam wrapped in some lovely upholstery that I'm planning on doing. Struan from Remotorcycled is sending me some cool material to use, I think. If you've not posted it yet, Struan, he's posted me some lovely material. I'm going to use that to cover it and try my hand at a bit of upholstery. Done a wee bit in the past and it's varying results, so hopefully I can make a nice job of this one. But yeah, steel pan that is going to be fixed to the bike using this mechanism here. This mechanism is actually original to the GS500. I had two of these mechanisms. I sent one up to Struan actually, so he might be using one in his XS850 build, so that would be quite cool to see how he utilises it. And the way I'm going for it is essentially I've got it mounted at this bar across the back of the frame here that I welded in for the powder coating. It's a quick release, so under here there's a little tab that you can flick and this comes out, and then that will be obviously on the underside of the seat pan. You put that in, press it down, and it's secured. And make it nice and easy to get the seat on and off. I've just there's a little tab under here that works to release it. The only issue I have is this. I want the seat pan to sit flush on the frame here, but this mechanism sits just a little bit proud, maybe about, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch, something like that. I did think about this when I mounted this steel plate for it to go onto, but it's the lowest point I could mount it. You can see it under there, it is literally attached to like the bottom of this rail, but the whole assembly is just too tall. I'd had to have, like, I don't know, welded in some kind of bar here, mounted it on, and it just kind of would have ruined that sort of clean look through there. So my plan is to try and recess this in the seat to have a sort of hole in the seat pan that sits recessed that this will go into, so that the seat still, when you look at it side on, sits like flush with the top of this frame rail. That's the plan anyway. I have a piece of steel here that I'm going to be using for the seat pan. It's just a piece of like mild steel, so I'll need to get it like painted and stuff before I use it. But essentially I need to cut this to shape and then figure out where the hole is going to need to be cut in it for the mechanism to be recessed, and then build some kind of box section or some kind of mounting that makes it sit on this side of it, and then there'll be a recess in the seat foam so that it can sit. It's only maybe, as I say, 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch, but it's enough that it sits up like that, so it would be nice to have it just that extra wee bit lower to keep that nice clean line.
I'm dumb fed, no fuck with lump sums in the bank. The chunks fed fun, I'll make you wanna run up and get your cut of the bread back instead.
So back in the shed, I've marked out, I did stencil it around the frame on one side, but it wasn't very neat, so I've taken measurements and based it off of the stenciling, and drawn up a bit of a neater seat pan. So I'm going to round the edges at the back. Although the frame has right angles, I think the round seat will just soften those angles a little bit. It is quite a sort of square seat, a bit unusual. There's no usual hoop, but I'm quite liking that style. So the next thing to do is cut this out and figure out where the recess needs to be for the seat bracket.
I I be laying on the beach, getting laid, look away, I ain't never afraid. I get up in the ride, slide over the vibe, and Rosarito, I know the key to surviving. No fuss, I'm dumb fed, no fuck with lump sums in the bank. The chunk fed fun, make you wanna run up and get your cut of the bread back and stash the bundle of cash into your bed. I look good up in the wooded panel, could have been a surfer instead.
Okay, there's an old saying in carpentry and things like that, is that measure twice, cut once. I'm not a carpenter. Fucking stupid mistake. The curves, the rounded edges for the back of the seat, I marked them in the thin end at the front, not at the wide end at the back. So I cut them in the wrong bloody place. That is really stupid and frustrating, and a waste of some nice sheet metal. However, I do have this other piece of sheet metal that I think actually is the side of an old filing cabinet, but it is almost exactly the same thickness of steel. It has this lovely green textured finish on the back. It's a shame. It might actually glue quite well for the foam. Anyway, really frustrating, but I've had to mark out again and cut the rounded corners in the right place this time. So yeah, let that be a lesson to you all. Don't be an idiot. Okay, now I've marked out essentially where the recess needs to be for the catch to go in, which is just this intersection here. So she's cut this hole in the seat pan. Okay, so we now have this attractive hole in the seat pan, but essentially this will now allow me to figure out where I want this to go. So when that locks into place, it essentially needs to be on this side of the seat pan and that high off the deck. So I want to build up a little metal platform that I can then attach this to, so that when the seat goes down it sits flat on frame rails. A little bit of bending, but you get the idea. Cool, so I've now welded this into place and it's the right height, perfect height, and it now has this sort of box section and recess at the back. It is shockingly welded. I've got this new flux core wire for my flux core on my gasless welder, and it is terrible. I mean, it wasn't the most expensive, but it's god awful. It's so porous, and it's just like snotty welds left, right and centre. I was getting alright with my flux core welder, but this wire has just like set me back to square one, so I'm gonna have to buy something different. I think something a wee bit better quality perhaps. But this will all be covered in foam and upholstered, so you don't see any of this. I've also welded into steel cross sections here. I don't know if they were entirely necessary, but I was worrying that this was just a little bit thin, this material. So just for extra rigidity, I've welded these in. They're absolutely solid, so hopefully that will just add that wee bit of stiffness to it. I can't see it, but perhaps if there was a wee bit of sagging in the middle of the seat, I'll stop that happening. Anyway, I'm going to get the Dremel out and the sanding attachment and just neaten this up a little bit, because this is the underside that you would see if you had the seat off. So just for my sake, I'm going to make it look a little bit nicer. Aside from that, the seat pan is almost done. Cool, so seat pan in place. The next thing to figure out is how we attach it at the front. So usually like the seat would like slot in to something, a wee tongue at the front, and then push down and lock into place. And without that you get this sort of slight side to side movement, so that needs to be secured down here. So the original seat, as I say, had like a tongue that bit into this bracket here. This bracket is what the petrol tank mounts onto. Usually you take it off with the petrol tank, and you undo these bolts here, and the whole tank and this assembly comes off together. Otherwise it's got two bolts that hold it to the tank. So my thought is to put some kind of tongue on the end of the seat pan here, that will join in to some kind of bracket under here that I'd have to fabricate. Maybe put in a cross section that's lower down across this bracket that this can slot into. So, need to figure that out. What I've done is I've cut a piece of this box section and welded it under the tank support here, and essentially cut a slot in it which this bar fits into nice and snugly. So if I make a tongue out of this bar to fit to the front of the seat pan, it should be able to just slot into place and that'll hold it at the front. That's the theory anyway. Alright, so that's the seat pan pretty much finished. Obviously it needs foam and then upholstering. I'll do that in another video. I am going to try my hand at some interesting upholstery, so stay tuned for that. For a day's work, I'm pretty pleased with that. Solid seat pan, locks in nicely, it's really neat and really secure. So that's ideal. See, once it's covered, you don't see all this work, this Shoogly welding, it'll be better, and you know, it works, it's functional, it holds it together, so can't argue with that, can't ask for much more either. So yeah, I'm pretty excited to get it all foamed and upholstered now, because I think this is going to be a pretty badass seat. I'm excited. Okay, I'm not going to make any promises. I don't know when the next video will be, but like I said in the last one, there are quite a lot of restoration-y kind of bits I need to do. The main things are the brakes. Actually, I need to completely strip down the brakes and get them powder coated and reassemble them with new seals and that kind of thing. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, then let me know and I'll make videos of the parts that I'm doing. I'm never entirely sure if people want to watch me breaking down mucky old bits of motorbike and reassembling them. I think everyone just likes seeing a nice bike come together, but if I'm wrong, let me know and I'll make those videos. As usual, give me a like, leave me a comment, and please do subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying these videos, and to see any more videos that I make. Every subscription makes a huge difference, so please, if you're enjoying them, hit subscribe and then you won't miss another one. Goodbye.